Welcome to Something to Say, where we bring voices from diverse backgrounds who will share their unique stories and perspectives on finding their passion and provide insights on how you can find yours. Join us as host Greg DeShields guides us through this enlightening journey.
Welcome to another episode of Something to Say podcast, a unique platform that amplifies the voices of individuals from diverse backgrounds as they share their passion and purpose. I'm your host, Greg DeShields, and I'm thrilled to bring you another inspiring episode. Thank you for joining us. And today we are honored to speak with Jason Dunn, CEO of the National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals. Founded in 1983, NCBMP is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the professional development and training needs of Black meeting professionals and all individuals who support excellence in the industry. The organization is committed to leadership development, community building, and elevating the quality of meetings, conferences, and conventions managed by its members. Under Jason's visionary leadership, NCBMP has sharpened its focus on advancing opportunities for people of color in the meetings and events industry. His leadership champions representation, equitable wages, and work-life balance, while also cultivating future leaders through education and mentorship. A key initiative is the George T. Turner Scholarship Program, a merit-based program supporting students pursuing careers in hospitality and event management. This initiative promotes diversity and inclusion by offering financial assistance to promising individuals from underrepresented communities. In 2025, Coalition expanded the program with a comprehensive asynchronous academic curriculum entitled Bridging Academia and Industry. Tailored for junior and senior college students, this cohort-based learning experience emphasizes group collaboration and community building, while offering flexibility through self-paced instruction. The course runs from July through November and serves as a vital stepping stone for students aspiring careers in meetings and conventions. This forward-thinking curriculum will culminate at the Coalition National Conference in Portland, Oregon, from November 19th through the 22nd, where it will serve as a transformative educational resource for the next generation of Black professionals in our industry. Welcome, Jason Dunn. Welcome, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Something to Say. And you are certainly one person who I know who has something to say. So I look forward to our conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Indeed.
So I'm anxious to really get into the conversation because National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals have certainly aspired to reach all new levels of excitement and impact over the last few years. But there's been a great deal of emphasis around future talent. And that's what I'd really like to talk to you about today. But in true tradition, Something to Say, we like to spend time to get to know you a little bit better. So I know you have a lot that you probably are engaged with during the course of the day. So giving us 25 minutes today will be well-used time.
Understood. Anything for you.
So we began with just a few get to know you questions. And then once we segue out of those, we move into more of the hardline conversation. But this is really to give individuals an opportunity to learn a little bit more about you. So we'll start with some easy ones and then we'll work our way up to more complicated stuff. So if you're ready, I assume, yes.
Yes.
All right. So it's really easy. The first one is, what is your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memory is my father, whom was a Marine who passed in 1994, March 17th, all my brothers and I used to greet him when he came home from work by wrestling him. And for some reason, he would always get us down. So it was 7 six total plus one, so it was seven of us total, and he would always win. And on March 17th, before he went to play basketball, I finally pinned him. I had just turned, I was turning 16 the week after, so I was 15. And so that resonates in my mind and has for since his passing in 1994.
It was the first time I ever had to put a thought of you as an adult as a child. Like, what does you look like?
Hey, yeah.
But you
Yes.
handled it like a pro. Thank you so much.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
So this question is kind of a two-parter, and
Sure.
given the work that we're doing with young professionals, I think it's a really relevant question. So the first part of it, what was your biggest failure, and what did you learn from that experience?
So I would say what I've learned from the experience of not living up to the expectation of my father was that I did not take school as serious as he probably would have expected my brothers and I to do. We were a family of athletes, and when I went to my first institution of higher learning, I didn't do as well, and then had to move around to a couple other schools to finally reach my destiny. Right, as would help me get to where I am now. And so what I learned from that is that, you have to take things more seriously that help your future and sustain what the expectations are of yourself and your family. But additionally, only you can make a difference, and you can't depend on others to assist you in that. And so there was a real fork in the road where I had to choose to either be great or accept my limited ambition at the time. And so I chose the path of trying to accomplish to being great.
Wow. We've asked that question of so many individuals, and that experience, whatever that failure was, has had such a lasting impact on just everything that they do moving forward.
Mhm.
It's like it's this muscle that you start to really develop, and it just gets better and stronger. So you
Yeah.
certainly see the outcome and how all of that has really benefited you. So this next question is one, I've heard it in a compilation of a variety of people we've interviewed, and I'm always intrigued by the responses. But now I'll be able to add you to that portfolio. So if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would that be and why?
So Greg, again, I hate to keep bringing it back to my father, man, but my dad, man.
Okay.
Like I said, my dad was my rock. He's my rock, and I just, like I told you, I don't really talk about myself in interviews, and I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but you asked me a question, so I got to respond. And I just stopped getting over nightmares of him 2 years ago, and he had been passed since for 30 something years. And so if I could have one moment with my father to have dinner, even if it was an appetizer, there is no other person that I would want to have dinner with my dad. Um,
Well, to kind of give you an uplift, what would you have to eat?
so
Oh,
listen, thank you so much. So he was the cook of the family. My mother could cook, but he was the cook.
uh,
So my father used to make so sweet potatoes,
mhm,
and he never gave my brothers and I the recipe. And so I would love to have just some sweet potatoes with him and watch him make them, and so we could sit and I could learn how to do that because we all tried to replicate this recipe, and
right.
it wasn't either sweet enough or texture wasn't enough or so I would say sweet potatoes and probably a nice big steak is what we would have. And he did not drink, but he did drink milk, and he would have a glass of. It's just gonna sound disgusting, but a glass of milk in the freezer that he would just drink and then pour fresh milk on top of it, and then drink it, and then put the rest in the freezer, and then keep drinking it. And it
Yeah,
was frozen ice of milk
yeah.
and we always would sit and look at him like, "What's this? This disgusting, man." But he did it, and so I think that would be something that I would love to have with my father, man, just one more time.
So it's interesting. You talk about him putting the glass in the freezer. So it's one of my habits of what I
Oh,
do.
is it?
Whatever beverage I have, I'll put it in the freezer, and then I'll take it out and I'll add something else.
Yes,
The
yeah,
colder, the better. And I do drink milk with ice, believe it or
yeah.
not.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I love it. There you go. We have something in common. Look at that. Look at
Well, well, let's learn a little bit more about you. So, how big is your inner circle?
Yeah, so I have a very tight family, and so my inner circle consists of three friends whom I've had since I was a child. My brothers, of course, my wife, and that's the two godfathers that I have. So I would say that it's relatively small,
Mm,
and it's immediate. So, and I have a big family, so I never really had to have friends or
mm,
trust people outside of our circle. So those who were allowed or invited to be inside of the circle usually grew up with me, and
mm.
they knew my family, and or they were married to me, so they had to know my family, right? And so, so I would say small to medium is the number.
Wow. It's interesting when we ask that question, we get some really interesting responses.
Mhm.
One was a new phrase for inner circle, which has been called a person's front row, which
Ah,
never heard that before. I kind
I
of like
like that.
that one.
I like that. Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. I
But
like
I
that.
do hear a lot about it getting smaller and smaller. We interviewed a gentleman who had an incredible career in healthcare, and he's
Mm,
in his 70s now, and
mm,
his is very, very, very small
mm,
based on his family.
mhm.
So his wife, his daughter, because he treasures his daughter, and his
Wow.
grandchildren. Those are three who really
Yeah,
advises him
yeah,
today.
yeah.
Interesting. So I know that I probably shouldn't be surprised with the response that you're going to give me on this, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Okay.
Who had the most influence in your life?
Yeah, so personally, I would say my father, of course. Professionally, Charles Hales. Charles Hales used to be the convention director for the Prince Hall Shriners and the Grand Lodge of Ohio. And he wasn't the original member of Coalition, but he was in that original few that came to the first conference in Washington. And he passed about maybe 5, 6 years ago. He was 94, 95 years old. And he taught me the game. He
Wow.
taught me the game of conferences and what our value is, and what not to listen to, and how to leverage your relationships, and how to be very direct in what you want.
Wow.
And so I would say he in the industry would be Charles Hales. Personally, my father set the foundation of how to be a man, and that has stuck with me since today. And so,
Wow, interesting. It's nice to see how you are able to connect with the personal and the professional in terms of
uh,
that influence they had. Interesting for me. So when people ask me from a personal perspective, it's actually my mom and my dad. Uh,
uh,
my dad was a boxer, so I've always adapted. As you know, boxers will go beyond what their body says because of their
yeah,
mind.
yeah,
And I've always adapted that in terms of fight. And then my mom always had that desire for something better. And
uh,
I take those two and I put them together to find something better. And interesting, the person who had the most influence on me, which you probably know, is Valerie Ferguson.
yeah, yeah.
Val was the first person when I came out of the management training program with Hyatt, and I was going to go into the food and beverage department. And she said to me, I was going through management training in her department in front office, and she said, "Greg, why would you go into food and beverage?" She says, "You're going to smell and be greasy." And look at me, my hair is done, my shoes are tied, in true Valerie style. She said,
I
"Don't be
love
greedy."
it. I love it. I love it. That's cool. I love it.
She's
I
always
love it.
been one of those icons for me.
I
All right,
love
so
it.
the last question, and then I want to just move into some quick discussions about industry. But when was the best year of your life, and when was the worst year of your life?
So, we're still living a life, right? So I can just say up to date, the best, like I said, would have been when I pinned my father. It was a big deal, man. I know I'm not doing it right. I'm not giving you the proper context, right? But for two reasons, and not to waste time, but for one, because one, when I pinned him, it was almost like he allowed himself to be pinned and saying, "You got it," right? And then he showed me the real power of friendship, because when he passed, two men came in my life, and I got close to my uncles, Larry Price and Uncle Kimbone, whom were good friends of his through church. And without the both of them, I wouldn't have finished school. I wouldn't have gotten married. I wouldn't have got my life together.
Mm,
Just the simple things, right?
mm,
And so he taught me the real value of friendship. The worst case to be, I think through that, I don't know if I've had a worst case. What I've had is many instances through my life where I didn't show up my best self,
Mhm.
but I don't know that I had a worst case. Worst case to me is something that I could not bounce back from, and I haven't had that opportunity or had that engagement yet. And
Mhm.
so there's always a silver lining in every opportunity that comes, whether you succeed or not. And so I don't have a worst case just yet. So and hopefully I don't have one. But but I've had opportunities to be better, and I think that that's what I've experienced from my 47 years of life.
Wow. Well, I think it's always interesting for people to be able to build upon whatever the experiences they have, good or bad, and lead
Yeah,
them to whatever their next iteration of who their best self would be.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So I want to move into a conversation about the Scholars Program, but I wanted to ask you a couple quick questions about the industry. So, meetings and conventions, can you discuss some of the misconceptions that you'd maybe like to clear up about the business?
Yeah, so I really do not like the acronym SMRF within our industry,
Mm.
because if you look at SMRF, and the way that it's categorized, most cities and hotel brands live off of those categories that make up those acronyms, right?
Mm.
And without those acronyms, they could not survive any inflationary places in history. COVID, they couldn't survive COVID. They could not have survived any downturn in the economy. So the foundation of those categories, in my mind, in my professional opinion, should not be labeled a Smurf, which in our with our generation means Smurf means little blue people running around, right? And so it's so so it doesn't give it doesn't, if anything, it should be gigantic, you know.
Yeah.
So I just look at that and hope that is not that can be changed soon. Second, I would say the impression that black business, whether it's conferences or professionals, are less than the other categories, or are not as qualified as other colleagues, which is completely false. Our industry, whether you're in working for a organization that a legacy organization that's historically black, or you're just a black professional working in the industry, there comes a sense of boundaries and hurdles and pitfalls that are set for you, that you have to overcome. And when you show up battle tested. And oftentimes the opportunity to show that is not given in an equitable way. And I think that is something that I would love for us to tear down. And we're trying to do a coalition as well to show that we can compete at all levels, and our business is just as important and impactful, and more valuable than most. And so I think those are the two things most that I would want to see through and push through.
Well, I would say, over the last 3 or 4 years since you've been, leading the organization, the impact that you've had in growing a more professional and battle tested professional to enter into this industry has become clearer and clearer and clearer. And the environment and the enthusiasm that people have at the conference, I think, really underscores that as they leave motivated and invigorated to go out and make a difference in their chosen field. One last question. What would you highlight as some of the specific innovation or breakthrough that you're pretty excited about? I know that the integration of artificial intelligence and new technology continues to dominate the attention of people in our industry over and over again. But is there something that stood out or stands out that gets you really excited in terms of the business?
Yeah, so I think what is really AI, of course, is going to impact all of us in some way, shape, or fashion. But what has really kind of shown me the growth is that there are many people who have got more opportunities than they've had in the past. And what I mean by that is, if you look at some of our industry boardrooms, although it is not where we want it to be as it relates to equity, there are people in the spaces whom are not afraid to speak up, and they have data, facts, and stats that challenge, I guess, the misinformation about our impact and what that means. And so, as we use AI, we use technology, and we are more receptive to innovation, tied to and rooted in data, facts, and trends. It allows folks to have more power, to be empowered, and to speak up with more confidence, and then to challenge folks on what they believe. And I think the industry is beginning to bend that way, and we'll see what happens in the next 10 years.
Well, I think as we all continue to see the integration of innovation and technology with a sense of removing biases or to create any of the coding to be as, I guess, accessible for all, it will be even that much more robust and that much more meaningful.
Mm.
All right, so the George Turner Scholars Program. So there's so much I want to ask you about that, but I'm going to start with probably there's two questions that are going to sound the same, but they're really different. So the first
Okay.
one is why is the student program important to Coalition?
Well, one, it provides us with a next generation of leaders, and I think the real thing that I like from involving yourself and your vision and the way that we had discussion, what came from that discussion, is the history. The George Turner program and the curriculum is rooted in history, which I believe sometimes is often missed. So it gives perspective and context as to why and who George was or is rather, because he's still around, he's still with us.
Mhm.
And I think the students, if they learn the history and are rooted and anchored in that, it gives them a better sense of the power of hospitality, and particularly with NCBMP's context. And so again, it gives them the history of history of the organization and the Black tourism in general. It gives stats and facts on what's happening, who, the value, the impact, etc. It talks about the plethora of opportunities that are in hospitality, not just cooking and cleaning or valet sales, etc., but the whole gamut of it. And then fourth, it gives a introduction into people who have already done it, seen it, and who can help other people kind of uplift themselves. And so I think those 4 or 5 points, in my opinion, if you have that, you are better prepared to compete. And if you don't, you are not you are not ready to compete.
Well, I do think the historical context of it, as it relates to African Americans in this business, certainly in developing the curriculum and working with the students, has been eye-opening. Like it's
Mm.
one thing that we're going to look at the historical, but there are these small little things that you discover that just are amazing. And well, what if I had known about that in the very beginning? What if that was my North Star as I went
That's
through
right.
my career?
Yeah.
So the other question is a little bit similar but different. So why is the George Turner Scholar Program so important to the meeting and the convention industry?
Well, again, I think again the duplicity of consciousness is what I argue some of our colleagues don't have, meaning that the power of tourism and the consciousness that it brings to a destination in which your organization may be founded on, it allows that salesperson or allows that professional who's in the industry to walk into a room, adjust the situation, understand the crowd, and then understand the leverage of whom or they represent,
Mhm.
and then how to build upon that and leverage it appropriately. And so I think some of that is missing within our spaces nowadays. But if we're training the next generation to be conscious in their thinking, deliberate in their act, and informative in their education, I think that aligns
Mm.
with the impactful professional. And so we want to build more of those, to have strong voices in the rooms who are confident, competent, and can compete. And I think that's really where this is anchored in. And I'm happy to keep pushing, man. Happy to keep moving and growing it. And we're excited about the opportunity, man. Looking forward to this class to do great things.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that at some point in time, a lot of the information will allow for them to win Jeopardy because the question will be asked, and only they would have the answer for
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So I wanted to ask you a question that will certainly help to put people in to greater clarity about the depth of the curriculum itself. So it's a 16-week asynchronous academic curriculum that students are involved in starting in July, almost all the way through the conference. So what was really behind the decision for an organization to number one, add real rigor to the organization and the student's academic experience, and the idea that that extended period of time would have even that much greater impact for them to go to conference better prepared.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So, when we originally had the concept of the student piece, this is a while ago. August was recently when we had it. They will come to the conference for the 2 or 3 days, They would engage in some of the sessions. We would have almost like a networking challenge where you could get how many cards you got from the individual I was there, and then it will be a conversion of conversation, etc. They would do a project about what they learned and then be awarded a scholarship if they were rose above the competition. And then lastly, some of them, the most elite of them, would then be awarded an opportunity to intern at a destination for 3 or 4 weeks with the possibility of getting a career started within that destination post graduation. And so all that is fine.
Mhm.
But we wanted to create a unit or a cohort where the goal is relationships. We believe that we do business with our friends, right? And so to have friendship, you got to go through something together, right? You got to experience things together, have equity in the conversation. You got to have some type of relational things. And so by building a curriculum, it allowed a sense of purpose. One, two, like I said before, it gives you a consciousness of what's happening. It gives you a broader concept of what the industry actually entails, and the education piece allows you to be more informed in your discussion. So when you're having these conversations with professionals whom you're trying to be like or get access from, you have a more in-depth way of kind of engaging yourself. And so for us, it was how do we create an anchor information within these students to create a relationship with them so they have an experience that only they have with a cohort that they can have for a lifetime of friendships. And then three, we're preparing them to compete within a circle of professionals who want to help them, but they got to show up too, right? And so I think it allowed us that commitment to do that. It showed the sacrifice that has to go into it. And then three, if you follow the commitment and you sacrifice, you will get a return of your investment of your time. And that's what we want to seek to get these people and get these folks employed and ready to compete at all levels.
Yeah, for me, the interesting thing was using the pre-course survey with the students gave us an opportunity to even find out how they wanted to be taught during the course of
Mm.
the summer. Of course, many of them are going to have to navigate summer vacation and all the other great stuff
Yeah.
that happens during the summer, but they were clear in terms of wanting to be able to engage with each other in a discussion environment. And the learning management system we use really allows for them to speak to certain things that they read and that they had some impressions of and get some feedback from each other. The other is that they definitely wanted to have an opportunity to work collectively as a team.
Hmm.
So the capstone exercise, as we will break them up into teams during their research project, or I should say their final project, will allow for them to have that full experience. They love podcasts. They definitely said they wanted to engage with podcasts. And more importantly, for many of them, it is the ability to look at videos and learn about things. And we shared the Green Book, which was, I took it for granted that they probably had saw that, and they
Right.
had, uh,
Yeah.
and not the movie, but the actual
That's
history.
your group. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Yeah,
And
I
they
understand.
were absolutely amazed that in such a short person's life that was a whole different concept
Yeah.
to what it would have meant to travel. So absolutely, that curriculum has had a huge impact, and of course, it's sprinkled with being an excellent, competent meeting professional. So, my next question is, what is one of the key items that students should know to really navigate a future in this business? Is there a silver bullet or is it just a mixture of things?
Well, I think it's a mixture of things, but the most important thing that is, I think that holds it down is your brand and your word, meaning that your name is all you have, right? And once you mismanage your name, it's difficult to go back and to attain it. And so to manage your name or your brand, the most kind of interchangeable, and honor your word. And because all those things are the foundation of relationships,
Mm,
and relationships is what gets you in rooms and allows you to get into doors and spaces that other folks can't get into. And I am a testament to that. I've lived that. I can point to every single pivotal moment in my career, and it has been tied to a relationship that I've earned along the way. And so I can honestly say that with receipts. And
mm.
so again, your name, your word, and your relationships are the only mixture of things that allow you, and your competency, of course. You get in a room, you can't be stupid. But
Right.
so you got to have the competency to do the work too. But the other three help you get into the room. But when you get into them, you got to produce. When you get into those rooms, you got to produce and you got to compete at the highest levels all the time.
Interesting. There were two, if not three, but I know definitely two of George Turner scholars who attended the NAPHOD conference.
You told me
And
that.
it
Yeah,
was
you told me.
interesting to see how they completely captured that presence around your reputation and your brand. During the course of that, there was a most valuable player component, and the students voted on who they felt was the most valuable. And they had to come up and give testimony about why that person
Oh,
was
wow, that's
so
cool.
incredible.
That's cool.
And it was such a moving experience to see the camaraderie and the relationship, and how even at this early age, start of their careers, that they had such well-established brands in terms of who they are and what they do.
Yeah,
So
good
you
for
bring
them.
up a good
Good
point,
for
and
them.
I'm sure we're going to adapt something like that as we go forward as well. Just
Absolutely. I like that. No, that concept I like that concept. That's cool. Yeah.
so one last question before, actually two, but one
Okay.
last in this particular order. So what must a student do at the conference for the best benefit?
Well, one, you got to show up. I mean, you got to show up mentally, physically, and spiritually. You got to be present. And then I think two, you have to make sure folks know your name. My father would tell us to walk into the room and make sure they know your name. And so you got to know your name, and you got to go in, say hi to people, engage, have something to talk about, have something to say, no pun intended, and have some depth to your conversation, and just be vulnerable. Say who are you, who I am, what do you want to do, what do you hope to accomplish, and speak to that. And I think that's really it. So again, show up, be present, and make folks remember your name in a good way. Engage with them. Just say hello. Our conference is very friendly. There are no strangers at Coalition. There are no strangers. You say hello, they will say, okay, hello, who are you? And you got to have something to say now. You can just look at them. You got to have some depth to you.
Wow.
Have some depth to you. Yeah.
Well, along that lines, our podcast is entitled, Something to Say. So what do you have to say?
What I have to say is we can compete at every single level and at all categories. So we have to believe in ourselves. If we don't believe in ourselves, no one else will believe in us. So if you don't show up, you don't have any depth to you, you don't show your competency, no one will take you seriously. Show up, be competent, and compete at every level at all times, and you'll succeed.
Wow.
That's all I got for you.
Jason, that was awesome. I really appreciate it. And we thank you so much for sharing your passion and your insight, and actually giving us some, I guess, peek behind the curtain of who you are. Like, I can actually now visualize you at 16, which I could not do before. So I thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, man. And I wish you success, Greg. Whatever you need from us, know we got your back. Show up.
Awesome. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Something to Say. So we encourage everyone to stay tuned for more inspiring conversations with voices of individuals from diverse backgrounds sharing their passion. So until next time, this has been Greg DeShields.
Thank you for tuning in to Something to Say. We trust you found some valuable insights and takeaways that can help you find your passion. Don't miss out on future episodes. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on your preferred platform. We value your feedback and suggestions, so let us know how we can serve you better. Keep the conversation going and stay inspired until we meet again. Take care and happy listening.